So I apologize for the delay. We were trying to hold out for a few of the people who are joining us, but we're going to go ahead and get started and hope that they show up in time to enjoy everything that we have to offer this evening. So thank you for being patient with us. And Mary is bringing around our first dram, the Cashew Amigo. So in Rio, probably the most popular juice to add to spirit besides guarana is cashew juice. Now cashew juice, if you've never had it before, is a very strange flavored juice. It's kind of creamy, just like the cashew nut can be. The cashew actually comes from a fruit. And so the cashew fruit itself is not poisonous. As you know, the cashew shells are quite poisonous, and the nuts have to be roasted considerably in order to remove all of the toxins. So the cashew fruit itself has been pressed here for us, and you will notice right away that it has a lot of texture. It's very rich. So typically, after a long day's work in the fields, you might come home in Rio, and the first thing you do is mix a little cashew juice with a little bit of cachaça, and we call it the cashew de amigo, or the friendly cashew. So here, just equal parts cashew juice and cachaça, with just a little bit of simple syrup. Okay, so on the plate you'll see from the Rio side, I said again the pão de queijo, which is the cheese bun made with the tapioca flour, as well as the New Orleans side will be the muffaletta. This is a classic Sicilian sandwich. So we start with a little garlic aioli on rustic Italian bread. And then from there, all of the delicious Italian meats we're familiar with, pepperoni and salami and spicy capicola, along with a little mortadella, which is an Italian-style cured ham, a little bit of our Kalamata olive tapenade, and then just a little bit of mozzarella cheese as well. Unfortunately, the muffaletta is not designed to be small, so Chef he had a tough time figuring out how to serve it and keeping the integrity of the sandwich itself. So it is quite large, and we'll happily box up everything along the way for you as we go tonight, because we'll get it's going to start building up. So we had to really ad-lib it to sort of recreate this cocktail, because the cognac was no longer available and the absinthe was no longer available. So he brought out the rye whiskey, and he developed a bitters and tried to recreate it. So this cocktail, when Katie makes it behind the bar, she kind of pulls out all the ingredients and sets it up kind of like a mischievous mixologist kind of deal. There's a lot of ingredients that go into it. The modern day Sazerac is made with both rye and cognac. So we would use Bullet Rye and Hennessy Cognac. We would also use Peychaud's bitters and a little bit of Angostura bitters. So for this cocktail, the first thing you should do with your mini martini glass, you'll notice there's a little bit of liquid in the bottom, and that is actually absinthe. Just kind of roll it around the glass and make sure that's not pooling at the bottom. And just roll it around, make sure it's coating the glass. We don't want it to dominate the flavor. So if it's already pooling at the bottom, it will kind of take over. So just roll it around the outside of the glass and get it to kind of stick everywhere. And then go ahead and pour your cocktail over it. I'm going to make my own here. Next up from the Rio side for the appetizer, we're going to be serving a salt cod fritter, and Chef has topped them with a little bit of mango salsa. Now the salt cod fritter, it is salted cod with a little bit of potato, and that's pressed and turned into a kind of like an arancini style. And then it's over the mango salsa, and it should be fairly bright, but it should be very strong. The salted cod, if you've never had it before alone, has some really strong flavors. And so the mango is to brighten it up, and the potato is to kind of level it out. From the New Orleans side, Chef's serving oysters Rockefeller, a nice classic here, and we selected the Sazerac based loosely on the oysters Rockefeller. The cream spinach along with the Pernod from the Rockefeller will just go extremely well with the Sazerac. Again, that anise flavor, that licorice note through the cocktail should really bring the Rockefeller, the Pernod in the Rockefeller out really well. Marion will start coming around with the Bossa Nova. This is old school Rio cocktail here. This one is probably the most complex of the drinks you'll see tonight. We start off with apricot brandy. We use Marie Brizard. It's pretty difficult to get your hands on, but it is the best apricot brandy on the market. It's made in France. It's really phenomenal. So we add a little bit of Galliano, which is an Italian liqueur with a little bit of vanilla, anise, and citrus flavor. A really nice spirit.
Are you writing this down?
We'll add dark rum, pineapple, and lemon juice, along with an egg white, just a single egg white per cocktail.
What would I ever have done without it?
So the bossa nova is actually, it's a dance and a style of music in Brazil. It's heavy on string guitar and piano. Most of the music you're hearing now is in the bossa nova tradition. And so when you smell this drink, you get kind of everything. The apricot brandy is definitely leading the way on the nose. And then the Galliano adds that vanilla and the citrus and the anise. And of course there is a little bit of lemon and pineapple, and those are there as well. And then the dark rum is providing that sort of molasses vein in the background.
So if we get drunk on this, can we blame it on the bossa nova?
That's correct. You can blame it on the bossa nova. That's right. Yes, and the lighter, the red color. The jambalaya will tend to be tomato based, where the feijoada will tend to be black beans. This is morchilla. This is a Spanish variety of blood sausage. It's much more mild than the types you might find at your German or Dutch delis that are in the area. Actually, Dryers in Three Oaks makes some phenomenal blood sausages. They are much stronger than this variety here, so don't think this is typical. This is a nice mild version. Chef wanted to make sure that it would be accessible to everyone. So if you've never tried it before, take a small bite because it does have a lot of good flavor, and it's not powerful like some of the other blood sausages.
So I said mass at this church.
But keep that in mind should you choose to buy some, because if you buy them at a deli like Dryers, they will likely serve a very powerful, strong version of the blood sausage. The last cocktail that we'll be serving is called the Leche de Onça, so the Jaguar's milk. This is really popular in Rio. It starts with a can of condensed milk. Now, if you've never made dulce de leche, it's actually fantastic, and you can use it just about on anything. You can take a can of condensed milk, turn it into dulce, and put it over ice cream, or put it over cake, or cupcakes, or you can eat it right out of the can. It's that good. And so basically, you take a can of sweetened condensed milk, and if you will put this whole can just the way it is, you would tear off the label, and you take this, you actually wouldn't have to tear off the label. You just take a saucepan about half full of simmering water, and you just put the can in it for about 3 hours, and it's going to reduce. And then when you open it, depending on how long you reduce it and how hot the temperature was, it's either going to be thickened and sweet, or it's going to turn into something like a caramel. And then the longer you leave it on, it will turn into a kind of a custard-like consistency, and then pudding. And then if you take it all the way down, it will turn into just a really thick, rich, sweet, delicious mess. I don't know what to call it. But after about 2 hours, it will start to turn and change, and the sweetness will start to increase as it condenses. And then you take it from 2 to 3.5 hours. It has some very different stages where it's pretty viscous, and you can manipulate it like liquid. But then after a while, it will turn into a kind of pudding, and then a custard, and then eventually it turns into something very hard, but still very sweet and delicious.
What is the name of it again?
Sweetened condensed milk. Jaguar's milk, or leche de onça, or Jaguar's milk.
Leche de what?
Onça, Jaguar in Spanish.
Okay.
I'm ready to fall asleep.
So if you make dulce de leche at home, do not buy Eagle brand cans that have the pop-off top, because they will explode and cause a huge mess in your kitchen. So make sure that you are buying a brand of condensed milk that has a traditional can top. Now, Chef did use Eagle brand, but he was very nervous about it, and he did put a sheet pan over the top. It did hold, but it says right on the can you should not cook it in water. It says it right on the can, you shouldn't do it. It's just not as strong, obviously, with the pop top. It's designed to come off very easily. So the Casa Solana is the preferred brand. The Eagle brand is a little bit sweeter, so it makes a nicer dulce de leche, if that's what you're going for. But it is more dangerous, so be careful with that. And so this drink, the Jaguar's Milk, features dulce de leche, as well as some whole milk, and cachaça, and what's the awesome ingredient? Let me taste it.
Well, I like it. I think you'll like it.
Like you never told your facts.
Is there like
There is cachaça, the Brazilian rum. Oh, Katie made a really nice version today. This is really nice. So you can tell the dulce is doing the work here. If you know what the dulce tastes like, it's nice and sweet and creamy. We add a little bit of milk. We do blend it with some ice to sort of thin it out. And then the cachaça is always there in the background. It's that dry cane sugar flavor. So for the desserts, the Rio dessert is hardly a dessert. I think it's well, it's really similar to an empanada. So it will look somewhat like an empanada, and it is cream cheese filled. The chef also adds a few other things, but the base is more or less cream cheese. And then the features and what makes it a dessert would be papaya puree, and so that's extremely sweet. And then he's also added on the base of the plate something else really delicious. What is it? A guava puree as well. So the guava will be white and papaya will be a kind of burnt orange color, and you'll see them both on the plate. And then you'll have a kind of empanada looking puff pastry filled with more or less cream cheese. Yes, and for the New Orleans dessert, we'll be serving king cake. Now, king cake, that's fairly traditional. Now, the cake itself, well, when I remember when I was a kid, it was always terrible. It had just very little flavor. But chef did a great job of flavoring the king cake. But the best part of king cake was always the king.
for the baby.
That's right. So I want everyone to cut their cake down the middle so as not to consume the baby Jesus. So, should someone find the baby Jesus inside their cake, chef has prepared a Brazilian feast for you. And so we will send you home with a certificate for a Brazilian sword, or a churrasco sword, so a traditional Brazilian style meat fest, essentially, all skewered on our sword. So one of these king cakes will in fact have the baby Jesus icon in it. So please cut your cake down the middle before taking a bite so that we can reveal the cake. But otherwise, king cake's not always terrible. It's kind of a mildly spicy. There's cinnamon and there's cardamom. It's a fairly flat cake. It doesn't have a tremendous flavor. It's not very light and fluffy. It's kind of dense. It usually has some kind of cheap icing over it that kind of masks the bland flavor. Chef did a great job, I think, incorporating the baking spice, making it dense enough, but not so dense as to replicate the king cakes that you remember when you were a kid.